Bikini Bottom has a ton of holidays that 99% of us probably don't really remember, but I literally went through every single episode and found a grand total of 40 holiday episodes. Sure, everybody remembers the big ones like Christmas and Halloween, but what about the smaller ones like National Free Balloon Day, Leif Erikson Day, Work Without Your Hands Day? There are just so many charming holidays in SpongeBob, and today we're gonna rank every single one of them based on how festive they feel. Intro yap session's over, let's dive in already. Lock and float. Scaredy Pants is the first full-out holiday episode in the series. This one's a classic Halloween episode that's chock full of hilarious moments. I think this one feels pretty festive too, since it's the first episode produced with a Flying Dutchman in it, and he's trying to steal everyone's souls. It aged quite interestingly, because that kind of thing is a lot more edgy nowadays than it was in the 90s. As for the festivities, everybody is dressed up in fun costumes. You got Squidward dressed up as the Dutchman, Mrs. Puff as a witch, and SpongeBob, however, is dressed in what is probably the objectively scariest costume to date in the whole series. Just his brain, eyeballs, and he's an invertebrate, so I guess that's not a spine, but we'll just call it a long stick or something. It scared the living dining sock off the Flying Dutchman, and frankly me too as a kid. Even though he says that it'll grow back, you can't deny that it looks a little disturbing. Beyond costumes, the Krusty Krab is decorated to the extreme. I'm talking skeletons, spider webs, jack-o'-lanterns, and even a bucket of murder apples to choke on. The soundtrack went full scary with lots of organs and such, and I really like how SpongeBob got the last laugh when he scared everyone in the end. Finally, in addition to having the scariest costume in the series, I'd argue this episode also has the second scariest costume as well, because how the heck did Sandy even do this? Sure, Squidward's not amused, but when is he ever?
What are you supposed to be?
Why, I'm a pet goldfish in a bowl.
Scaredy Pants truly feels like a Halloween celebration, bringing costumes, enthusiasm, and scope. While many other scary SpongeBob episodes don't even make this list since they never directly reference Halloween, this one is a perfect example of a fully committed holiday episode, feeling Halloweeny through and through. We're starting off strong here, because this one's a no-question S-tier entry on our festivity scale. Next up, we have Season 13's Arbor Day Disarray. I think it's really fun how we got a holiday episode on a more random holiday. In this one, Sandy mutates a bunch of trees to be able to grow underwater and gives them out to all of her friends. But they end up gaining sentience and causing chaos throughout town. To this episode's credit, I gotta say, this is definitely the most passionate piece of Arbor Day media I've ever seen. But even so, I don't think it really feels as festive as a lot of the more traditional holiday specials on our list. The trees kind of feel like generic, abrasive characters. It kind of felt like if a bunch of ghosts were the main characters of a Halloween special, but didn't really connect to the holiday beyond that. It makes sense, but feels a little more indirect than truly celebratory. But anyways, the trouble gets resolved whenever SpongeBob offers to fertilize the trees. The trees agree to this until Sandy transforms the machine into a wood chipper. Obviously, the trees aren't okay with this, so she quickly sucks up one poor sap and spits him out as the middest chair on the planet. Understandably, all the other trees begin to panic since they just saw their bro get bait and switched like that. But then the mid-looking chair convinces the other trees to jump in too, saying it feels nice being furniture. So they all happily hop into the wood chipper as well. As fun as the episode is though, we're ranking it based on festivity, not the plot. I'd say it gains some points for showing trees walk around, kinda like the trees from Shrek the Third, but loses some points since there aren't really any costumes or decorations to go along with Arbor Day, and only like 6 fish are actually celebrating it. A good way to spruce it up would have been to make Bikini Bottom a forest or something, because as it stands, it still needs 2 or 3 more ways to feel truly rooted in Arbor Day to feel like a real holiday episode. It just doesn't feel very festive, even though Sandy gave out pot after pot after pot of trees. This one just can't rank that high. Still though, I'd bet 5 acorns this is the strongest piece of Arbor Day media you guys have seen as well, and the holiday does get referenced several times throughout the episode. Overall, B tier level festivity on the whole. Opposite Day is a classic SpongeBob episode where everyone has to do the opposite of whatever they normally do. Even though the holiday existed before the episode aired, there is no denying SpongeBob is the main reason Opposite Day became such a cultural phenomenon. Now looking at this strictly as a holiday special, the festivity level is definitely lighter than Christmas or Halloween episodes, since there aren't really decorations or town-wide celebrations and stuff. But we do see Squidward playing bagpipes and wearing a wig, so there's definitely some visual commitment to the opposite day bit, but the catch is, the vibe with Squidward is more gag of the day than legitimate celebration. With SpongeBob and Patrick though, they are both totally playing it straight when they dressed as Squidward. The way they mimic Squidward is by forcing this poor woman to listen to an atrocious sounding clarinet solo. And every time she says she doesn't want to listen to it, they just assume she's saying the opposite of whatever she wants and play even more. Getting back to how festive this one is though, the fact that this episode launched opposite day into real life pop culture is significant. It gives it a kind of cultural influence that no other SpongeBob holiday episode can even claim to come near. So while the decorations and scope may be small, the enthusiasm and cultural footprint are huge. It's committed, it's iconic, and even though it's a little muted as a holiday episode, high B tier feels like the perfect balance. Life of Crime is that episode where SpongeBob and Patrick steal a balloon and get arrested for their crimes. But it turns out they stole it on National Free Balloon Day, so the cops just released them immediately.
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Okay, time's up.
Unfortunately, Free Balloon Day didn't catch on culturally like Opposite Day did. I mean, imagine how cool that would be if we actually had a Free Balloon Day we all celebrated. But even in the episode itself, it honestly feels more like a plot device than a true holiday. Honestly, the most interesting thing about this holiday might be the name itself. National Free Balloon Day. It just implies Bikini Bottom takes place in a nation, which makes sense given we see King Neptune and all, but I just wonder if there are other nations in the show that we don't really see. We rarely really zoom out from Bikini Bottom. Speculations aside, this one ranks pretty low overall on our festivity scale. We got some balloons for decorations, I guess, but there's minimal enthusiasm overall, and the holiday barely affects the town beyond the plot. If our ranking today was based on episode quality alone, this one would obviously place a lot higher, but since we're exclusively focusing on how festive these episodes feel rather than the episode's quality, Life of Crime lands in middle D tier. Still a holiday episode, but in much more of a Die Hard is actually a Christmas movie kind of way. Fools in April is one of the final season 1 episodes released. In it, we find out SpongeBob loves April fooling everybody, much to the annoyance of Squidward in the process. It's got a lot of charm, since we don't really see April Fools get celebrated in media as often, and I think it helps that SpongeBob's pranks were pretty harmless overall. But this all changes when Squiddy Boy decides to prank SpongeBob in return, but went a little too far and hurt his feelings. Let's put the plot aside though to analyze this thing based on how festive it is. I gotta say, this thing definitely fully commits to April Fools overall. There's not really any point where the holiday itself feels gimmicky or like background noise, and the only time it's not in the forefront of the episode is when Squidward goes to apologize. While it's mostly just SpongeBob pulling the pranks, the other Bikini Bottomites actually play along and seem amused by his holiday antics. We even see Mr. Krabs join in when he calls Squidward to tell him that he's been nominated as Artist of the Month. So the holiday felt celebrated, but in a much more grounded, bare-bones Season 1 kind of way. It doesn't feel as immersive as a Halloween or Christmas special might, because, you know, April Fool's is inherently more of a gag holiday since it's so focused on pranks and such. But enthusiasm and community spirit give it a fun, diet festive energy. Overall, I'm perfectly happy to throw this thing in middle B tier. It feels holiday focused and full of April Fool's spirits, but at the same time, it's a little more reserved than, you know, Christmas and Halloween would be. Moving on to the next one. We sorta got our first Christmas entry right here. Plankton's old chum is a parody of Christmas, but with chum. It all starts when Plankton has to get rid of some old chum, but then SpongeBob catches him trying to dump it illegally. Plankton somehow manages to convince SpongeBob that he's actually just giving it out as part of a cool new holiday, Chum Day. As you'd expect, SpongeBob jumps in enthusiastically, helping him spread the holiday cheer by breaking into houses all over town to give people some chum. Not gonna lie, this is almost definitely the grossest holiday on this entire list. I mean, look at this. What is this? To absolutely no one's surprise, they end up attracting an angry mob against them, but are luckily saved last second by an explosion that causes it to snow chum throughout town. This is the narrative turning point of the episode, since SpongeBob begins singing Christmas tunes that have Chum Day lyrics, and the kids in Bikini Bottom begin sledding and getting all hyped up. It started off completely fake, of course, but SpongeBob succeeded in spreading holiday cheer for this made-up holiday, and by the end of the episode, everybody was celebrating it, so it actually felt pretty legit. The only person who never got on the Chum Day train was the health inspector, for obvious reasons. This man does what any Neptune-fearing health inspector worth his salt water would do and has Plankton eat all the bad chum. This one is our first parody holiday on the list, so we have to somewhat adjust our criteria for ranking it. On one hand, the episode visually reflects Chum Day, particularly with when it snows Chum Down. But on the other, it's piggybacking off of Christmas in a way that makes it feel like it lacks its own identity, really. To rank it, I'd say, given how everyone is celebrating it, it earns some points. But the fact it never feels truly serious since it's piggybacking off of Christmas so much makes it have that lower middle end kind of festive energy. C tier suits it well. Gone is the spiritual ancestor of the goated Season 10's Mimic Madness. There are technically 2 holidays that appear in this one, but this episode really just focuses on the first, so that's the one we're going to focus on today. It's National No SpongeBob Day, but SpongeBob himself doesn't know this. He works a full shift at the Krusty Krab, only for no one to show up since they're all gone. He said it! He said it! He eventually begins to panic and starts checking inside of people's houses, once again breaking and entering all across town. The trouble for him is, all throughout town though, everyone is gone. He said it! He then mimics everybody's lives to give a sense of society as his sanity goes down the drain. When everybody comes back explaining it was National No SpongeBob Day, the episode then ends on the note of switching it to our other holiday, National No Patrick Day. Anyways, on to ranking this one. This one's also a little weird to rank, because from everybody else's perspective in town, they're pulling all the stops when it comes to celebrating No SpongeBob Day. Since SpongeBob is nowhere to be seen, they all travel to this unique island, and they even burn down this massive wooden effigy of SpongeBob. Me thinks it to be concerning how they did all of this and then stomped on the ashes afterwards. Like, I'm all for the holiday spirit, but they seem like they kinda got it out for SpongeBob, especially Squidward. So yeah, they clearly celebrated it since they treated it like a legit holiday and even stretched it out into weeks. But from our perspective, it just follows SpongeBob the whole time in the episode. Very much the opposite of National No SpongeBob Day spirit. I think if we saw this thing from Squidward's perspective, it would have ranked an A or S tier, but from the perspective we actually saw, I think D or F tier seems more appropriate. The episode did fully live in the holiday though, from start to finish, so it gave it a very intentionally isolated vibe with everyone being gone. Even so, I don't think anyone is watching this one and thinking, wow, what a festive episode. So D tier works fine. The Legend of Bikini Bottom is a stop-motion special fully centered around Halloween spookiness. It's a very ambitious special that chose the perfect art style for giving the whole thing some Halloween texture. Plot-wise, with all of Bikini Bottom celebrating Halloween, SpongeBob can't walk 13 feet without getting jump-scared by some spooky shenanigans. Patrick helps him become fearless, and they end up taking on the Flying Dutchman, winning in the process. Graphically, all of Bikini Bottom has been reimagined to give off a Halloween vibe. You have the obvious stuff like pumpkins and spiderwebs, but more subtly, the special has a much darker color palette, contrasting the usual oversaturation of the show. In the story department, the Dutchman capturing SpongeBob's friends felt tense and appropriate for Halloween. The only time this episode departs from its Halloween vibe is ironically when it shows the thing that scares the Dutchman the most, SpongeBob's imagination. It completely terrified the Dutchman. Just like in Scaredy Pants, SpongeBob saves the day and everyone in Bikini Bottom is once again safe. Between the puppets, a spooky song, and boatloads of Halloween energy, it easily has the most festive energy of anything we've currently covered, making for a memorable experience. S tier's the only place that makes sense. Overbooked is that one season 6 episode where SpongeBob tries to help Sandy, Mr. Krabs, and Patrick all in the same evening. And I think it'd be a pretty safe bet that 95% of people who've seen it have no idea it's a holiday episode. But the crazy thing is, it absolutely is. I'll give you a second to try and remember or mentally guess the holiday. If you said Christmas, well then you're flat out wrong, you freaking donut. It's a niche one called Porpoise Day. When SpongeBob went to Tom's Toolery, W-pun, to buy a hex drill, he found a paper on the door saying the store was closed in observance of Porpoise Day. And that's as far as the holiday screen time in this one goes. Hey, I really wasn't kidding when I said we'd be including every single holiday in SpongeBob. Also, this holiday is apparently real according to the internet, supposedly taking place on the 3rd Sunday of May each year. Obviously, this one shop and possibly more of the town seem to be acknowledging the holiday, thereby giving it a little bit of a community vibe, but it's so indirect and brief that it almost makes me think it doesn't even deserve to be on the list, so we're just gonna go ahead and slap it in F tier and move on. Dying for Pie is a hilarious Season 2 episode that takes place on a made-up corporate holiday. It's Employee Brotherhood Day, a day most likely established by Mr. Krabs to create some camaraderie between SpongeBob and Squidward. It's a simple but effective working holiday. You just give your coworker some sort of homemade gift. SpongeBob made Squidward 2 shirts, one made of eyelashes and the other made of tears, and Squidward dismissively bought SpongeBob a pie from a bunch of pirates that turned out to have a bomb planted in it. It's another borderline episode that's kind of up for debate on if the holiday is a true holiday or not, but overall, I think it technically counts, since it has a holiday name that's referenced repeatedly, rules for how to follow it, and a goal of sharing gifts with each other, which feels very holiday-y. Still though, it's less central to the plot of the episode than, say, Opposite Day was, so it can't rank too high. D-tier level of festivity on the whole. The Haunted Bucket is the newest holiday episode on this list, having come out in Season 16, and oh boy does it feel very Halloween-y. It starts off with Squidward just trying to get rid of Patrick and SpongeBob on Halloween, telling them they should go find a quiet, abandoned area to spend the evening. Naturally, nobody goes to the chum bucket, so SpongeBob and Patrick kidnap Squidward and just go there. Y'all, I think this episode feels very festive on the whole. SpongeBob and Patrick have costumes, the Krusty Krab is decorated, and Plankton spends the whole episode just trying to scare them. There's some solid narrative progression with this one. We start off with some light Halloween themes, but then we ramp up to having full-out spirits just terrorizing the place, circling around on the ceiling, coming up out of the ground, giving enough twists and turns to have some great Halloween energy. And if you think this episode wouldn't be funny because it's so committed to the Halloween vibe, I gotta point your attention to this one hilarious joke where a bunch of cowboy ghosts start flying out of the ground. And Plankton explains that he got the chum bucket at a discount since it was built on an ancient cowboy burial site. That's a pretty clever joke. This episode gets you in the mood for Halloween easily, and I definitely think it's among the more memorable of the seasonal specials. Overall, if you like SpongeBob and Halloween, I gotta recommend this one. It's a modern gem. I do think it might be a hair less festive than the other two Halloween episodes, but it definitely still belongs in S tier. Also, y'all, Halloween is dominating our S tier category so far. Awesome stuff. Bubble Buddy passionately celebrates the holiday Leif Erikson Day in its opening act. I gotta say, not only was I surprised by the fact that Bubble Buddy is actually a holiday episode, but that Leif Erikson Day is actually a real holiday, annually consistently acknowledged by the US president for decades. Anyways, the plot of this episode doesn't in any way relate to the holiday, so let's jump straight into seeing how festive the intro really is. For starters, SpongeBob is fully committed to dressing for the occasion, sporting a Viking helmet and a big old beard, and decoration-wise, he's got an oar in hand and an anchor on his bed, reflecting the nautical life of the Vikings and allowing him to sail his bed to Patrick's rock like a ship. He also talks in a goofy way to reflect the holiday, and even Patrick celebrates it too, since he left a note wishing SpongeBob a good Leif Erikson Day. So as far as festive spirit goes, oddly enough it's quite chock full of it in this opening act, complete with sailing sound effects and everything. It's no wonder why this is a popular meme, and generally a quite memorable scene. In many ways, I think it's like Opposite Day, since it took a real, made-up feeling holiday and became the most pop-culturally relevant piece of media celebrating it. But compared to Opposite Day, yeah, the scope is way more limited. Obviously, it's treated more like an opening gag, rather than something worth making a whole episode about. But I think we kinda got a taste of what a full Leif Erikson special would have looked like later on with Season 6's Dear Vikings. But it never directly acknowledged Leif Erikson Day, so it's not on our list. Poor Dear Vikings. Overall, I think C tier works best for Bubble Buddy's Leif Erikson Day, even though it's only briefly in the episode. Simply because of how memorable it is, and also because of how cool that anchor on the bed is. Karate Island shows Gary celebrating New Year's briefly in the opening, but doesn't in any way connect back to it again, and it's only for a couple seconds. I don't really have anything else to say about it, but technically we have to include it. I think it can go in F tier, but like high F tier, because it did have one of those party blower whistle things that make a funny noise, so like the passion's there, but it's very brief. Also guys, do y'all have a name for this thing? I googled it, but there are like 30 different names for it depending on the region. We just need to unite and make one name universally canon. Anyways, moving on. It's a SpongeBob Christmas is the opposite extreme of Karate Island. It fully commits in every way to being a holiday special and has become a staple for me to watch every single year during that time of the month. when you're really locked into watching Christmas stuff like Elf and Home Alone. It's just such a great time. This special has Christmas energy in boatloads, left and right. It's another stop-motion special that feels like it was made with the same love and care they poured into Legend of Bikini Bottom. Plot-wise, Plankton found a way to make everybody act like they got a humbug stuck up their chimney by giving out fruitcake laced with Schedule 1 jerktonium. When everyone starts fighting, SpongeBob ends up having to save the day and is able to do so with Sandy's help. Looking at our Christmas spirit meter, we see a lot of fun music baked into this gingerbread cookie. In general, whenever a TV show makes a special intro theme song for one episode in particular, you know it's about to have all the stops pulled. And even beyond the intro theme song, several characters have fun little mini songs, with the most catchy going to our favorite little rectangular prism, SpongeBob. Graphically, like Legend of Bikini Bottom, this one knocked it out of the park as well. It subbed out the usual saturated style with the more muted winter color scheme, and things like icicles and snow really helped make the art style land. From start to finish, nearly every element of this episode helped you feel fully immersed in the Christmas vibe, in the best way possible. This special feels like that old Rudolph stop-motion movie, but with SpongeBob. I think this episode thoroughly meets all of the qualities, and then some, of what you'd imagine a SpongeBob Christmas special would have, since there's no corner of it that doesn't reflect Christmas. It's another easy S tier. The Clash of Triton is another, actually, if you look at it the right way, a holiday episode. Now I know you might be thinking, oh, but Manly, King Neptune's birthday surely mustn't count. And that would be a point you're completely right about, oh hopefully subscribed and supportive YouTube watcher. The holiday in this episode is not King Neptune's birthday, but rather Work Without Your Hands Day. Obviously, we don't need to waste a ton of time on this one since it kind of feels like something SpongeBob made up. But on the contrary, every holiday had to have been made up by somebody before, so why can't SpongeBob join in on that? What are we, gatekeeping holidays? That's pretty shellfish. Boo! Besides, Squidward and Mr. Krabs both imply they've actually heard of it, so it kind of lends legitimacy to the idea that it actually exists in SpongeBob's world, but in the same way that Squirrel Appreciation Day exists in ours. Even if no one celebrates it, a lot of people have heard of it. All that said, the fact that SpongeBob straight up stopped celebrating the holiday when it got inconvenient for him makes it kind of impossible for us to take this holiday seriously when even he doesn't take it that seriously.
So much for Work Without Your Hands Day, SquarePants. You answer to a higher calling this day. I have the capability!
Therefore, it's an F-tier holiday and an F-tier special that ironically probably could have ranked as a D-tier special if SpongeBob stuck to the gag of the holiday the whole time. Gooners on the Moon is a holiday special in the most depressing way possible. Sure, we see Santa. Sure, it takes up the final act, so it does have some legitimate screen time. But it's super disappointing as a Christmas special, since it was marketed heavily to be a big Christmas extravaganza episode. All of the commercials for this episode back in the day were less about the fun space adventure and more about Santa showing up. They kept going on and on about how Christmas and the moon will be fused together, but the special we actually got never even referenced Santa until the final act.
On a brand new holiday special, it's SpongeBob and Santa in space!
Merry early Christmas!
And when Santa does show up, it's kinda everything relating to Christmas. No toy midgets, no decorations, just Santa hanging in there like some chill guy rather than Saint Nick. He literally feels like a DoorDash driver who's only there to deliver a Deus Ex Machina and disappointment. Originally, the name for this one was literally Space Bob Mary Pants. The most clickbaity name they possibly could have advertised considering how the final product is. But luckily the current name, Gooners on the Moon, doesn't catfish you when you just want to throw on something festive. And it has the added bonus of being even funnier as a name than Dopey Dick. But I'm still salty about the advertising for it. Even though the episode itself is actually pretty underrated, the holiday component itself, nah, it's a letdown. Honestly, objectively, this one probably could go in D tier, since it gives Christmas a passing wink. But because it had false advertising and lying is mathematically the exact opposite of Christmas spirit, this one gets its own tier below F tier, G tier. Or, to reference the movie and add emphasis, Z tier. The Gift of Gum is one of the more disturbing episodes on this list. But hey, you better believe it's a holiday one, because The Gift of Gum actually celebrates one of the most important holidays of all, Best Friends Day. Apparently, it's actually a real holiday, taking place on June 8th each year. Patrick gets SpongeBob an Indiana Jones-sized ball of gum, and SpongeBob gets Patrick a robot companion. Something kind of sweet but annoying is how SpongeBob avoids telling Patrick that his gift blows. Most of the runtime in this episode therefore ended up getting spent on SpongeBob struggling to secretly get rid of it. And frankly, I don't blame him. This was around the start of Patrick's weird jerk phase in middle era SpongeBob, so him crashing out over that kind of thing would be expected. In the end, SpongeBob ends up stuck in the gum alongside Sandy and a few others, so Patrick eats the gum to free them, sort of. But let us examine the festivities. They directly acknowledge Best Friends Day by title 7 times in this episode, so it wasn't some one-off thing, but it does kind of fall into that same category as Dying for Pie though, vibe-wise, since it acts more as the catalyst to the plot rather than something truly getting celebrated. If they connected the episode's antics a little more directly to the holiday itself, we'd be able to rank it higher, but as it stands, I think Gift of Gum has D-tier level holiday energy. Valentine's Day. Not gonna lie, this episode has some faults, but holiday-wise, it actually approaches Valentine's Day itself in a charming manner. Rather than being super romantic randomly, the show keeps it light and just has everyone exchange gifts in a platonic but intentional manner. SpongeBob wants to get a good gift for Patrick and comes up with something really creative, actually. A giant chocolate hard air balloon with Patrick's face on it. Trouble is, a bunch of scallops end up taking the balloon out and SpongeBob has to just give Patrick a friendly handshake instead. Luckily though, just as Patrick looked like he was about to chuck everyone off the pier, Sandy pulls through with the giant heart balloon. It's a bit stressful to watch if I'm honest, but about festivities, we got a decent amount of Valentine's Day style blues and pinks in there, so the decorations are on point in this one. And evidently, everybody in the town celebrates it too, because when Patrick had him backed up on that pier, they all had a present on hand to throw at him. Every moment of the special connects to Valentine's Day in some way. But then you suddenly have Patrick's major crash out ruin a lot of the holiday fun. Combine that with how absolutely stacked our S-tier roster is looking so far, and I just don't think this one can go any higher than middle A-tier. But hey, A-tier is definitely up there, and this one definitely does Valentine's Day justice. Moving on. Stuck in an Elevator from Season 15 takes place on everybody's favorite holiday, Elevator Riding Day. I have many fond memories celebrating this one as a child. And make no mistake, this one absolutely qualifies as a holiday. It's a holiday that's called by name. The episode honors it by spending nearly the whole thing being in an elevator. And it even features various pieces of elevator riding paraphernalia designed purely to maximize rider annoyance. This holiday is so legitimate that even Christmas and Flag Day are quivering in their boots, intimidated by the raw, festive energy of this one. If you're curious about the plot, Squidward needs to return a library book, but gets stuck in an elevator. He said it! Patrick and SpongeBob are with him the whole time, and then Squidward gets arrested for returning his book 30 seconds late and gets thrown in elevator library jail. Sure, the entire episode takes place in an elevator pretty much, but jokes aside, get real with this one. It's not even all that festive. I mean, think about it. It's Elevator Riding Day, and yet the elevator is stuck all day. The elevator ain't going anywhere. They're not riding an elevator. They're just sitting in an elevator. That isn't very festive if you ask me. That's like having a give food to the homeless holiday, and then you do nothing but eat the food in front of them. I firmly believe, therefore, that this one has F-tier level holiday energy. Best Day Ever. This is ironically the first one on the list that I'm truly not sure whether it should be included or not. I was just in this exact same position a little while ago when I ranked every special with Best Day Ever. The trouble is, the Best Day Ever sounds less like a recurring holiday and more like a one-time event. But for one key reason, I ultimately realized I had to include it. Much to my surprise, this actually isn't the first time this holiday came up in the series. It actually originated in the episode Jellyfishing in Season 1 when SpongeBob and Patrick kept trying to make it Squidward's best day ever. So my initial hesitation about it not being a recurring holiday got completely thrown out the window. Therefore, my hands are tied, y'all. I have no choice but to include it since it's a recurring holiday. Anyways, SpongeBob is convinced it's gonna be the best day ever, and has a list of things he wants to do with his friends. None of the things work out, but he helps them along the way, and then he realizes that maybe the best part of the best day ever was the friends he made along the way. Festivity-wise, there are actually a lot of events that occur on the best day ever. You got jellyfishing, karate, burger flipping, and to cap the day off, a concert starring Squidward. The fact that all this is planned specifically for the big day makes it feel connected to the holiday, and when you consider the fact that there's a best day ever song that this episode was written around, you better believe it feels pretty committed to that holiday. They say the phrase best day ever 27 times in total in this one, so it clearly is taking it seriously. If that was everything I had to say about it, the special would land in C tier and we'd call it a day. But the ending, there's literally an entire play thrown in honor of the best day ever, complete with props, several participants, and a lot of holiday spirits. This scene alone clutches onto this special and catapults it an entire tier higher into B tier. Moving on to the next one. Season 1's Jellyfishing. Now this one I really bet none of you will be able to guess the holiday. Yet, for those of you with incredible recollection of the show, you'd already know that the holiday here is Tentacle Tuesday. Best day ever. Somehow Best Day Ever manages to weave its little nose everywhere it shouldn't be. But anyways, this one is all about SpongeBob and Patrick trying to give Squidward the best day ever, much to his annoyance. After Squidward detonates when he falls off a cliff, they take him jellyfishing, help him firmly grasp it, and make him some soup. This one isn't as extravagant as the other Best Day Ever episode, and it hardly even feels relevant despite getting referenced about a half a dozen times or so. This makes the overall festivity of it fully carried by Patrick and SpongeBob's enthusiasm, which, sure, it is there alright, but can't place this one any higher than D tier. The Smoking Peanut features a holiday that directly challenges the very fabric of capitalism itself. Free Day. You'd think Mr. Krabs would absolutely detest such a holiday since he'd have to give out free Krabby Patties all day, I'd assume. But evidently, he closed the Krusty Krab for the day to spend it getting anything that isn't nailed down, including the Great Clamoo's Pearl. Yeah, this one's holiday acts more as a plot device than a proper holiday. And yeah, we do see a lot of citizens enjoying the generosity of the holiday, but the fact that it gets cut short pretty early due to Clamoo's screeching makes this one feel far from festive. F tier makes the most sense for it, even though the holiday itself sounds kinda interesting. I'm With Stupid celebrates Starfish Day, a day where starfish across the globe meet up with their loved ones, it seems. But that's just a guess because it's only briefly referenced by Patrick's parents. They actually do end up coming by to visit, but it's at the end of the episode, so we never really get a chance to see the traditions. While it sounds like a day with potential, it ultimately is giving me Porpoise Day vibes, since we don't get any details whatsoever, so we're gonna let it snuggle up nice and cozy beside it in F tier and move on. Keep Bikini Bottom Beautiful has one of the most passionately celebrated days, Trash Day. Now make no mistake, dear viewer, you probably are thinking this one doesn't count, but just check out this clip and directly tell me that there isn't some fervent passion on display.
Hey everybody, it's Trash Day!
Trash Day!
That kind of sheer enthusiasm definitely implies culturally that Bikini Bottom highly values and celebrates having a trash-free city. Still not convinced? Look at this other clip from earlier in the episode.
They've already built one. Of me! I cleaned up all of Bikini Bottom in only 1 week.
Bless you, Squilliam Fancy Sim. Bless you.
These people literally built a statue of Squilliam holding onto a bag of trash. Now, I've seen the goated Alex Bales video where he talked about how he theorizes Squilliam himself put that there, and honestly, that is a possibility. But if it's legitimately something erected by the town itself, I mean, it's a case closed at that point, right? They just love having clean streets. Who can blame them? The passion of this one takes it pretty high, not gonna lie. But it's also a smaller part of the episode, so I think that C tier works pretty well since there is more community passion than, say, Dying for Pie's Employee Brotherhood Day, but less relevance to the episode than, say, Opposite Day. SpongeBob's Road to Christmas, another SpongeBob Christmas special. Now this one is fun because it's quite different than your typical Christmas formula, since Santa basically doesn't even show up, and the whole thing takes place at an event in Encino, California. But unlike Gooners on the Moon, this one doesn't even feel remotely clickbaity, despite subverting the typical holiday expectations. The mood of the episode is surprisingly cohesive, considering the broad range of flavors thrown into the same pot. I mean, we got Jacked Gigadeer, Robo-Elves, and like I said, it doesn't even take place in a typical North Pole setting. Festivity-wise, we got a lot of classic Christmas decorations. I'm talking Christmas trees, red outfits, snow, all twisted to give off a diet horror Christmas vibe. I think as far as our holiday spirit scale is concerned, this one obviously ranks pretty high, but it's not quite S tier since it's a little more around Christmas rather than within Christmas, if that makes any sense. They traded the traditional Christmas vibes to make it a melting pot of a few different styles. And while it ultimately helped the quality of the episode, it does knock down the overall level of festivity. SpongeBob's Road to Christmas places in A tier. Mamageddon is a season 14 episode that celebrates Mom Day, which honestly feels a little redundant, what with there being a Mother's Day and all. But who am I to judge? SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs all have their moms come to the Krusty Krab for Mom Day, and they spruce up the place to make it feel homey. It definitely gives off some unique energy too, since we really don't often see these characters for extended periods. And that makes it quite charming in my opinion. Plus, this one actually double dipped and technically features a second holiday, Dad Day. It's cliched, but I found it kind of funny when all the dads just wanted to watch football and eat snacks. Festivity-wise, neither of these feel particularly holiday-ish, likely because it takes place in the Krusty Krab the whole time, making it feel, a bit more like a corporate holiday than anything. But they do redecorate the place and use uncommon characters, so the episode is at least committed to the bit. Given the parameters of what this episode set out to do, C tier makes the most sense. Breath of Fresh Squidward doesn't directly take place on a holiday, actually, but it's included because it gives us photos from holidays that are worth checking out and discussing. First, for some quick context, SpongeBob and Patrick have apparently been sneaking into Squidward's room every day to watch the sunrise with them for years. Yeah, that's definitely not creepy. Upon Squidward waking up and seeing them, they show him photos of times in the past when they'd come in there. The first photo is of 4th of July, with the three of them all dressed up in beautiful American attire. And to my knowledge, I think this is the only time we've ever actually seen Independence Day referenced in SpongeBob, so I found this kind of interesting. The second photo shows us Valentine's Day, which ups the creepiness to straight up disturbing since they were apparently kissing Squidward in his sleep. And finally, Easter, another one that's barely even been referenced throughout the entire series. It's kind of cool seeing these holidays portrayed in SpongeBob, even if the episode itself doesn't expand beyond it. Given the quality and quantity of these photos, even though it's only briefly shown, I think F tier is just a little bit too harsh. Let's just throw this one in low D tier and call it a day. The SpongeBob OG 2004 movie. This movie has a special day in it that I'm sure you all remember, March 14th.
The day that Krabs fries.
Plankton gave it some passion, but honestly, I didn't think it belonged on our list as a true holiday at first. But that's until I realized that for years now, the lovely folks of Reddit have been celebrating it every March 14th. Which ironically makes it a sort of holiday in real life, even if it wasn't back in the day when the movie was made. Retroactively though, this one became a holiday due to repeated observation online and completely deserves our utmost respect and recognition. F tier. Sandy's Country Christmas is the most recent Christmas special, and honestly, it might be the best looking episode of SpongeBob ever put out. I'm not usually a big stop motion guy, but even so, the textures and color palettes in this episode are just gorgeous. Every frame feels handcrafted in the best way. Story-wise, Sandy and her family are celebrating Christmas when Santa Claus literally crashes into their tree. So of course, they end up covering for the big guy and delivering presents all over town. And along the way, we get a bunch of really fun, charming Christmas songs that add a ton of personality. From a festivity standpoint, this one's an absolute layup. Everything. The visuals, the music, the decorations, everything just screams Christmas. There isn't a single moment where the holiday spirit doesn't shine through. If you've seen it, I'd love to hear what you thought of it. And if you haven't, it is currently December, throw it on while you're binging the other SpongeBob Christmas stuff. It's a warm, lighthearted good time. You ought to see it. For the ranking, this one's an easy S tier. Peak holiday energy. Alright, finally, it's time for some legit holidays. Our next entry, What's Eating Patrick, celebrates a holiday that is acknowledged throughout the seafloor, Founders Day. At first, I thought this would just be some sort of localized event, but it's actually a widely celebrated holiday. It's mainly celebrated every year in the Krusty Krab, where people from all over come by for a Krabby Patty eating contest. Much like a hot dog eating contest in America. The fish equivalent of Joey Chestnut is here, and he's a calm and collected eater who easily downs the patties. He's not actually from Bikini Bottom, so the championship belt is kept overseas with him, and Patrick steps up as the man to bring him back to Bikini Bottom. This one has some scale to it, decorations, and strong community engagement, making it a respectable holiday in the world of SpongeBob. Honestly, I'm tempted to place it low since it's not really a day known in real life, and because it totally missed a great pun opportunity with Flounders Day, but objectively, the scale and community engagement given to this one makes it frankly belong in upper B tier. Squids on a Bus is a season 12 episode showcasing another classic SpongeBob invented holiday, just riding on a bus all day. It feels like a direct prequel to Elevator Riding Day, and once again, I gotta agree that riding a bus is a really cool method of transportation. You can already guess what happens, I'm sure. Squidward and a bus driver switch jobs for a day, and SpongeBob and Patrick tag along for the episode. It's not really got anything festive going on with it, and is more of a technically it's a holiday, so I'm kind of forced to include it kind of situation. So let's put it right by Elevator Riding Day in F tier. The Sewers of Bikini Bottom is all about a brand new Krusty Krab sponsored stadium that takes place over an overflowing sewer. The holiday in question is Free Axe Day. Honestly, I have no idea how so many free item holidays can even exist in Bikini Bottom. Like, logistically, it seems quite economically challenging. Even so, there are several axes lying around which imply crowd participation, but with it barely even appearing in this episode and it feeling like it might not truly be a real holiday, I think we all know this one belongs in F tier, despite Free Axe Day being a cool axe concept. You know what? I'm gonna call an audible. We only have one major holiday special left on this list, and it feels like we keep getting hit with these nothing burger holidays. So, I think for pacing, we should probably do a quick lightning round through the more questionable entries. Sound good? Alright, let's get rolling with it. First off, we got Take Gary to the Park Day. I don't think this one is a legit holiday because it has Gary's name in it. But to be fair, we do celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Columbus Day, so I can't really write it off for that. F tier is still where it's gonna place though, since it's just a plot device. It's barely even referenced. Next, we got Spring Cleaning Day. Once again, sounding kinda questionable, but the narrator implies in the intro that it's a yearly tradition on a specific day, so it probably meets our criteria. F tier again though, because the episode it's in doesn't even really glorify cleaning, but rather hoarding. So even if we grant it as having legitimate holiday status, it feels like it contradicts the traditional spring cleaning spirit. And next, we got Annoy Squidward Day. This one's pretty funny, and SpongeBob always seems like he's bringing the festive spirit for it year-round, so I think it might still have to be F tier. It's a good line, but doesn't have any substance beyond that. Anyways, next up, we got Labor Day. It got a shout out in Creepaway Camp, but it's insignificant. In real life, I've always found this holiday to feel very arbitrary and made up feeling. But hey, a day off work is a day off work, so no one's complaining. Low F tier is the best spot for this one though, because it's barely even acknowledged. Next up, we got Graduation Day. It occurs once a year and is celebratory, so is it technically a holiday or not? I don't know, but either way, we'll throw it an F tier and move on. Next, we got Bring Your Pet to Work Day. Once again, fully a plot device. Not actually festive whatsoever, hardly outside of SpongeBob's antics, so F tier even if it's technically a holiday. And finally, we got Happy Hoppy Moron Day from Idiot Box. This one's another special circumstance where at first it was just a one-off joke, but in season 12, the nitwitting retroactively somewhat implied it's a legit holiday nearly 2 decades later, so F tier. Alright, with all other entries covered, we can now move on to my favorite entry in the whole SpongeBob holiday saga, Christmas Who. Christmas Who is one heck of a SpongeBob special. It's the first episode in the series with an extended runtime, and stuffed to the brim with jokes and holiday cheer. It's got all your typical holiday trimmings. A fun song about vandalism, nifty holiday clothing, and snow left and right. Plus, we get the unique perspective of Bikini Bottom learning about Christmas for the very first time. Because it's new to everyone in town, it's not just the kids who get hyped up, but the adults too, and I think that makes this one a little special. Everyone sings around a Christmas tree, covered in jellyfish jars on a moonlit night, and the whole thing feels merry and brings a classic North Pole jolliness to it. Until things go south. The next morning, Santa never came, swapping out Merry Aura with mild irritation. Squidward takes on the role of Santa, giving gifts out and saving the day since Santa never actually came. But then we oddly enough see a live-action Santa in the sky wave to Squidward. There never really was an explanation about why Santa came there, but he never brought gifts, even though I personally think it kinda needed one. I mean, the shot clearly is underwater still, so it's not like they're claiming that it's unrealistic to have Santa go underwater. My personal theory is that they got the date wrong. Maybe they were celebrating on the 19th or something by mistake since, all of the Bikini Bottomites were new to it. Either way, we don't really care for the purposes of this ranking. Holiday energy is once again what we're looking at, and it is in boatloads with this one. It goes multiple layers deep since we got a customized theme song opening, real-life decorations in Patchy the Pirate's house, and a fully decorated interpretation of Bikini Bottom. Community engagement-wise, yeah, everybody is participating. You even have Mr. Krabs and Patrick writing Christmas lists to Santa. This is my personal favorite holiday episode in the series, and I think given how utterly broad the range of the festivities spread in it, it can't go anywhere other than S tier. I'm curious how you guys would have ranked these things, because SpongeBob holidays have this very interesting mix of real life and made up stuff, so it's kinda tough to keep a consistently objective scale to it. Also, drop your own made-up holiday in the comments below. Every holiday had to get made up at some point, so who knows? Maybe yours will catch on. Anyways though, if you want to check out some more fun SpongeBob ranking content, check out my all 42 SpongeBob specials ranked video right here. In it, I rank all 42 SpongeBob specials. It's over an hour long, was utterly fun to make, and I think you'll have a fun time watching it. Thanks for watching, mate, and have a fantastic day.